Hey guys, thank you for joining Liz and I as we read more of the Father's Word and we teach more biblical truth. My wife's making faces in the background. You'll hear her voice, but why don't you come around here and say hi again to everyone?
Well, maybe not.
So anyway, thanks guys. Grab a cup of coffee or whatever it is you drink in the morning. Hopefully it's something a little healthier than coffee.
Well, no, it depends on which year in the century we're talking about.
Yeah.
1 year it's good and 1 year it's not.
Yeah, don't trust the medical community at all, or the scientific community, or the political governmental community, or the pharmaceutical community. Don't trust anything they say.
Listen to
But
the
you know what?
word in your body.
Yeshua said it's not that which goes into the mouth that defiles a person, whether it's liquids or food or solids, but he said it's that which comes out of the mouth, your words. So anyway, thank you. We're reading through the book of Revelation. We're talking about what part of Revelation applies to the events in John's lifetime when Yeshua came in the clouds of judgment and destroyed Jerusalem, destroyed the temple, abolished Judaism, and he used Nero and the armies of Rome to do it. And what part can we apply, have a secondary application or a secondary fulfillment in our time now, the last days, the last hour, the end times? You have to read all the prophecy like that. You read through the book of Isaiah or Jeremiah or Ezekiel or Daniel or any of those other prophets, some of the things God told those prophets to say to Israel happened right then. Some of them happened a few years later. Some of them happened 100 years later. And some of those same prophecies had another fulfillment towards the end of times. That's how you can't put everything in one historical part of the timeline or you will get confused. Same with Revelation. We almost finished up chapter 16 yesterday, but I wanted to go back to verses 20 and 21 of 16 and explain this. Every island fled away, and the mountains were not found. And there fell upon men a great hail out of heaven, every stone about the weight of a talent. And men blasphemed Elohim because of the plague of the hail, for the plague thereof was exceeding great. Keep in mind, these are metaphors. John's seeing a vision of what Yeshua was about to do in John's lifetime upon Jerusalem. So what's the hailstones he's talking about? Obviously, the islands didn't just disappear either. So these are metaphors. I'm a literalist. I'm a biblical literalist. But I know within the absolute, taking the Bible literally, absolutely, there's metaphors within that. And there's symbolisms and there's types and shadows. So he's just saying the whole political structure of the earth is changing now when Yeshua comes. I mean, he's wiping out a culture called Judaism, a religion called Judaism that has existed for many centuries. So he's coming in the clouds of judgment like he said he would in Matthew 24, like he said he would to Pilate. Pilate, you're going to be alive and see me coming in the clouds of judgment, not his physical body, but you'll see my judgments, Pilate. And he said in Matthew 24, some of you disciples will be standing on the earth when I come back in judgment and knock the temple down and destroy Jerusalem. So what are the hailstones? Josephus, who was a Jew, who was such an accurate historian and everybody respected him, that Nero heard about him, went and captured him, and instead of taking off his head or crucifying him like he did 1.5 million Jews, Nero hires him. He says, you come work for me. Josephus didn't have a choice. So we have the works of Josephus when these things were happening. Josephus refers to this as when Rome was surrounding, the armies of Rome were surrounding Jerusalem like Yeshua said they would in Matthew 24, between the years of 67 and 70 AD, when they would put up bulwarks, is what they're called in the Psalms. They would besiege the city. They would surround it. They would starve everybody out inside the city. They wouldn't let any water or any food go in. And they let the Jewish zealots kill their own people, the Jews, for a while. So they were very patient. And back then in the wars, kings were very patient. They would just surround a city and starve everybody out. Nero did the same thing. But they built bulwarks. They leaned these big things up, and they had these big boulders. And they rolled those big boulders up. I mean, they could do it. Just look at the pyramids. I mean, that's amazing. And some of the structures. Well, it probably was. Yeah. Fallen angels probably did build in giant form. They were giants. They probably built the pyramids and other edifices like that in history that we still have some of them today. But they had a way of getting, Josephus records this for us. He was witnessing it. The Roman army would take those bulwarks, and they had those big stones, and then they would drop them inside of the walls of Jerusalem. That's what John saw in the vision, and it happened right after he saw that. So we have the idea of putting all of Revelation in our time now, in the future, in the end times, as being literal hailstones. Now, can Elohim do that again with literal hailstones? Well, we already know, because the New World Order is modifying the weather with geoengineering, that they're producing hailstones this big. Some of them are softball, some of them have been basketball size. So yes, the Father can certainly use an evil agent like the New World Order, like he uses Satan all the time, who's an evil agent, to pour out his wrath upon mankind even today with literal hailstones. So I just wanted to explain that to you. We're going to start now with chapter 17 and verse 1. There came, remember, figuratively speaking, metaphors, there came one of the seven angels, literal angel there, which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying, come hither. Now this is interesting, because chapter 4, verse 1, the messenger from Elohim says, come up hither, John. And the pre-trib rapture people think that's the rapture. It's just an angel telling John to come up to heaven. He wants to show him things. Come here. Back, the word come up hither or come here is all throughout Revelation. So what does that mean? There's many raptures? That's foolish. Come here. I will show unto you the judgment of the great whore who sits upon many waters. Oh boy, this is going to be fun. So we're going to get into what is Mystery Babylon, who's the great whore, who's the mother of harlots, who's the abomination of the earth, who is the Babylon, who is the beast system. And again, I shared this in another video. Please go back and start from the beginning, the introduction to the end times, and then listen to our videos of every chapter of Revelation, and you'll understand this. I'm not going to take the time to do it now, but a lot of people want to pigeonhole what specifically in our time now is represented by these words that this list that I just read, and in fact, it's in verse 5. I believe it's all of the above. The Roman Catholic Church, the New World Order, the Committee of 300, the Club of Rome, the Luciferians and the Illuminati and Bohemian Grove, the Crown of England, they're at the top of the global government now. Back then, it was Jerusalem was the Babylon, the mother of harlots. The Roman Catholic Church now is obviously the mother of harlots in Babylon, the big apostate church. Now almost all the churches are apostate. So it's a conglomeration of a group of things. It's all of the above. So the great whore that sits upon many waters. People want to say this is just Rome. Obviously it was Rome back then. It's Rome now. It's all the nations now. They're all whores. They're all idolatrous nations. They're all Babylon. They were back then, they are now. Every nation's always been wicked in the history of mankind. But sits upon many waters because Rome is the city of Italy, and Italy is like a boot, and there's water surrounding three sides. Yeah, Italy is a country or a nation that's shaped like a boot on the map, a boot. And it's surrounded by many waters. Jerusalem had waters around it also. Jerusalem, you had the Dead Sea, you had the Red Sea, you had the Sea of Galilee. I mean, it can be either Rome or Jerusalem, but this is referring to something back then, but we can apply it today also. With whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication. Again, this is symbolic. They didn't literally. But yeah, some of that took place too. Just like the kings of the earth today. The political leaders of the New World Order and their puppets in our government are all, most of them are pedophiles, sexual perversion, sexual perverts. And they even sacrifice the little kids they have sex with. When they're done, they sacrifice them to Satan by killing them. So the kids can't be released and tell on them. They can't go and report what has happened to them. It's happening today too. But this is both a spiritual, political, and a physical fulfillment here. The inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So he carried me away in the spirit realm into the wilderness, and I saw a woman. Again, who's the woman? A woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads, 10 horns. Is it the literal city of Rome back then that John saw? Is it the eventual coming of the Roman Catholic Church that he saw, which the church wasn't developed until right around 300 A.D. Constantine was probably the catalyst, or probably the in earnest foundation of the Catholic Church began then. I know the Catholics think they can trace their history all the way back to the disciples of Christ. Well, I got news for you. Every denomination says that.
Let me ask this, isn't a scarlet beast also the lion that's represented on the
Britain.
On the crown of
Great Britain. Scarlet beast, that's exactly right. Also, the red dragon is a scarlet beast that's represented on the coat of arms of King Charles. How about that? And,
among other things.
yeah, Donald Trump, a lot of their coat of arms have that red dragon, the scarlet beast. But yeah, the red lion, where it has a unicorn on one side and a lion on the other, that's Great Britain. And that's also the symbol for TBN, Trinity Broadcasting Network. This can be a conglomeration of many things. So they made drunk. He carried me away in the spirit. I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. The woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color. If you look at a picture of the Pope and all the cardinals and all the bishops, that's the colors.
No, those are the colors of royalty.
Exactly.
Also.
They're also the color of royalty in Great Britain, which is at the top of the New World Order today. The Crown of England, and then the Committee of 300 is right under them, and then the Rothschilds and Bilderberg groups, Illuminati, the Bohemian Grove, Bill Gates, George Soros, they all fall underneath that. So they were full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads. They were arrayed in purple, red, decked with gold and precious stones and pearls. The Vatican, I believe, has the most gold right now of anybody in the world. China, Hong Kong would be probably second, and it's because the New World Order is placing their gold that they're getting from the sale of drugs worldwide, the growing of opium and cocaine, the selling and the manufacturing and selling of cocaine and heroin, which comes from raw opium. All of that's been going on for several hundred years, and the globalists own that gold. Right now, today, in the end times, 70% of the world's wealth is in the hands of 64 families. And the old their golden rule is, he who has the gold rules.
I would also say that this description, the crowns, actual physical crowns of the royalty of the United Kingdom, they are huge in gold, and precious stones, and pearls, and they're holding a cup.
Yeah.
When you see them, they're all. So this is very telling as far as the role that Great Britain may play in this.
And the pictures of the Pope, he has a crown, he has a sepulcher, and he has a golden cup in his hand. You can't, though, just say all of this is just the Roman Catholic Church. It's Great Britain, it's the Vatican, it's the entire beast system of government today.
That's right, because Donald Trump's bathroom fixtures are made of gold.
So were Jimmy and Tammy Baker's. I saw them. I used to work there at Heritage USA. So yeah, Jim and Tammy Baker's bathroom fixtures were made of pure gold from the tithes and offerings of you guys out there who supported them. But it was a great resort to work in. It was like a Six Flags. It was kind of cool. All right. So they had full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads, decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. There was a global government back then. There were many antichrists back then. Go back and read 1 John chapter 2. The same apostle that sees this vision wrote about it. There's many antichrists on the earth right now, and there's one that's coming, so you better be prepared. He's writing about that now.
But let me just mention this, because in the Hallelujah scriptures, it doesn't refer to it as fornication, which fornication we know is a specific act. It says whoring, which means anything of filthy lewdness.
It's idolatry.
Yes.
It's mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, sexual, political idolatry. That's what fornication means here in Revelation. That's what being a whore is, being unfaithful to God. Very good. Thank you very much, theologian Liz Moore. Right. I appreciate that. Upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. Well, the Catholic Church wasn't formed here. So what John's seeing in this vision, if part of it has to do with the Catholic Church coming along and perverting everything about the divine attributes of God, his character, his nature, all of theology, all of history, all of eschatology, which the Roman Catholic did do that, then perhaps he is referring to what's going to be formed as the Roman Catholic Church later. But remember, he's seeing a vision of events that were happening right then in his lifetime. So Rome, Nero, they ride in with their banners and flags with eagles, which are a dirty bird. They're a bird which represents paganism, idolatry, spiritual, mental, political fornication, and whoring. They ride in and they tread upon Jerusalem. That in itself, Josephus said, the Jews considered to be an abomination of desolation. Then Nero continues on in his horse and rides all the way into the Holy of Holies of the temple, and he desecrates it, and he puts up a statue of himself. He requires a mark on the forehead and on the hand before anybody can buy or sell. It's a mark of loyalty to him. This has to do with back then, and a secondary fulfillment will be in our lifetime now, which is a conglomeration of all of these things. Spiritual, false religion, one world religion; political, one world government; fornication today, sexual perversion is everywhere. It's in your face. And we have a pope now that's leading up this mother of harlots beast system, false religion, who's embracing homosexuality. He's embracing a sexual perversion. There's bishops and cardinals right now that are trying to hold him to the line and actually rebuking him for that. But, they'll never leave the Catholic Church because they believe it's the true church. And Roman Catholics today, even if they recognize this Pope is not accurately representing Christ, not accurately representing Scripture, and he's perverted, he's got demons in him, even though the average Roman Catholic Church member sees that and recognizes that, the reason they won't leave the church is they've been indoctrinated that if they leave the Roman Catholic Church, then they lose their salvation. They won't make it to heaven, which that is a false teaching completely. I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints. Well, who back then was killing the saints? The Jews and the Roman soldiers. The Jews were convincing Rome to kill the followers of the way, is what they were called. They weren't called Christians until later on. So I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and the blood of the martyrs of Yeshua. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. The angel said to me, wherefore didst thou...
Great admiration?
Admiration's not, see again.
No, it's I greatly marveled.
Because the next verse says, the angel says to John, why are you marveling at this? He's like amazed. It's not admiration as in respect and honor. There again is a bad KJV translated word. I'm going to have to do a whole teaching on that sometime. I'm reading from the KJV, by the way. So Liz and I read other verses every day, other chapters, other books in the KJV, but we have several translations and paraphrases.
But how does someone who doesn't look at other translations receive that? They think he was admiring this woman?
Yeah, and the Old English admiration may mean something different than our modern English. A lot of words are like that. In the Old English, they're completely different than, like the word terrible in the Old English is a very respectful word. God's a terrible God, it says in the Psalms.
Awesome, reverend.
Well, hang on. Terrible in our modern English means something bad, something repulsive. It's something we don't want anything to do with. But terrible in the Old English was a very it's a word of endearment. God's a terrible. He's powerful. He's awesome. Even awesome. Mm-hmm. Awesome means some all. But all of our modern day courses, our God is an awesome God. It means some all. Awful, the word awful today is another word in our modern English, which is a negative word. That's awful. But in the Old English, it meant full of all. All full. He's full of all. That's the word that describes Elohim, not awesome. He doesn't have some all. He has fullness of all. Got to really, really understand not just the difference between Old English, KJV, and modern English, but you got to go back to the ancient Hebrew and Greek to understand these words. Thank you for bringing that out, theologian Liz Moore. I appreciate that. Mm-hmm. Word study. She's good on word study. She does a lot of research. That's good. Where are we, baby? 7.
7.
The messenger from Elohim said unto me, why did you marvel? I will tell you the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carries her, which has the 7 heads and 10 horns. Now, you have a woman on a beast. So there, as we said in our previous teaching, there's a group of people back then who had the demonic spirit of Antichrist in them. 2 parts to that beast system of Nero in Rome. There was a spiritual religious part, which was false, demonic. There was a political, politically, which had a military. You could almost say 3 parts. Political, military, and spiritual, religious part. That's no different than today. The military-industrial military complex is now controlled, even our military is controlled by the globalists, the New World Order. So, and the Pope today is playing the role of the false spiritual church, false spiritual religion. He's playing his role, all under the sovereign plan, preordained plan and agenda of the Almighty One, Elohim.
Okay, this is a complete aside, but because you brought up the military and all that, we are approaching the 4th of July. And as people are historically want to do, is go out and shoot fireworks and
celebrate our nation.
Celebrate the nation. I would tell you, if you are still celebrating this wicked nation, you need to step back and take a look at what you're actually celebrating.
What you're embracing.
This nation is wicked beyond belief. And if you're celebrating the memory of something that maybe was at one time or partially was at one time, I get that, because I used to be a huge patriot. But there is no way I can pledge my allegiance to this wicked, wicked, demonic country that we live in.
I was just going to say that. I remember 15 years ago, I was at a Christian college basketball game. And they all stand up, they sing the Star Spangled Banner, then they do the Pledge of Allegiance and the flag in their gymnasium. And I've never felt good about that in the last 20 years, pledging my allegiance to a flag that represents an evil, wicked, perverted nation that the Father has already turned over to Satan.
And we're told we're not to do that.
We're not to do that. All through the Bible, do not do that. So I heard the Father, I started the words, and then I heard the Father, it's what that little still small voice. I don't hear his audible voice. I'm not wacky, okay, guys, but I heard that still small voice saying, "What are you doing?" And I went, "What? I'm doing what I've always done my entire life. Stop it." From that point on, I will never, ever, ever again pledge my allegiance to the flag that represents a wicked, evil, demonic nation that Satan is heading up right now. He's the prince and power of the airwaves. He's the prince and power of all the governments of this nation, worldwide and this nation. All of his puppets, all of his human agents are in the White House. And don't do it, folks. Stop it. Stop putting stuff on your Facebook. Stop putting the United States flag. If you go back and look at what the Freemasons taught and what they believed, it's Luciferian, and what stars represent in their pagan system and what white, blue, and red represent in their pagan system, you will never again pledge allegiance to that flag.
Let me say this too, because I know a lot of folks, and I totally respect people who gave their service to this country, and
we do too. I still thank them.
I thank them for that. I know every time we see somebody with a cap on, Tom's always the first one to go over. And we're not saying we disrespect you and your efforts at all.
No.
What we're saying is the country that we've been conditioned to revere has gone apostate. It's gone dark.
There is no more United States of America, folks. There is no more Constitution, U.S. Constitution. There's no more Bill of Rights. You have no more individual rights and freedoms. You're going to find that out real soon. Real soon. Probably the month of July, beginning there, with the whole new digital currency system, starting with the upgrading of the power of the frequencies of the 5G towers.
Yeah, that's supposed
to kick on. They're continuing to do the cloud seeding, and I wrote a post about this today on Facebook, where they're spraying over clouds and then manipulating the winds to go over geographical areas. That's what this Canadian fire is all about. They've sprayed on top of it toxic metals and pushed the winds down to the United States of America. People are going to die in the millions, and they're going to blame a new virus, the globalists. They're going to blame and say, go get another
climate control,
or
climate change.
Global warming is what they're going to blame. They're the ones manipulating the weather modification.
This is strange because I told Tom, I said, the last couple of days I've just felt this, like I couldn't catch my breath. I felt my lungs like I'm not able to fill them up. And then I was seeing some posts this morning about all the conditions everywhere. People were taking pictures of what the air quality looks like. And no wonder it's hard to breathe. If you go outside, the air is so polluted. We don't have any. And we live up here in the mountains.
Yeah, where it used to be pure.
Yeah, and where we have a lot of trees that produce the purifying, what is the chlorophyll or something like that.
The chlorophyll.
That will help us to. So if it's bad here, I can't even imagine.
Carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide. The trees produce one, we breathe it, and then we breathe out.
Yeah.
So anyway, listen, John's seeing a vision of a beast system that was composed of two parts: a spiritual religious part, which was Jerusalem. It was their religious system. When Yeshua had more to say in anger, in righteous anger, towards the leaders of the Judaism system when he walked on the earth, and he's getting ready to destroy it. That's the vision John's seeing. And then, of course, that was the religious system. Jerusalem, guys, is the mother of harlots, the mystery Babylon, and the abomination of the earth. Back then in John's time. What is it now? The Roman Catholic Church, the entire apostate churches, even the Protestant churches, that whole group, they're not teaching the pure gospel. The Joel Osteens out there, the Rick Warrens, the Andy Stanleys, the TV preachers.
To some degree, I would say even the Torah movement.
The Torah movement. Torah movement's always wanting, they're trying to bring back works with grace, and Paul was very clear, you can't mix them. Yeshua was very clear, you can't take new wine, the gospel, me, who represents the new covenant, Yeshua is saying, you can't take new wine and pour it into old wineskins, which represented the law, the Torah, because the old wineskins will burst, and you're not going to be benefited by that. So the new wine has to be taken in and drank, which is the gospel of grace, without mixing it with law. Now, should we obey the Father? Well, if you are truly born again, you will desire to obey the Father. You will look at those laws and say, okay, why were they given to the people in the Old Testament? It must have been, even the dietary laws, it must have been because Elohim created us. He knows what's good for our bodies. So he created dietary laws and other laws, social laws, abstaining from fornication and adultery.
But your salvation is not subject to.
Salvation has nothing to do with that. So stop making that. You're part of the Babylonian system, religious system, if you're doing that. So back then, John understood that. It was a mixture of religious and spiritual system with political system. I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the martyrs of the saints. Why are you marveling, the angel says. I'll tell you the mystery. The beast which you saw was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life before the foundation of the world. And when they beheld the beast that was and is not and yet is.
Well, and that would say those whose names were not written. So obviously there are some names that are written.
Yeah, we already covered that in a previous teaching. Before the foundations of the earth, God already had a book called the Book of Life. He already had a select few people of everybody that was going to be born into the world whose names were in that book. He chose us before the foundations of the earth, folks. Now, this is really cool because this can apply what I just read to an individual person and to a beast system. Watch. Now remember, if you go back to chapter 1 and verses 1 and 2 of Revelation, Yeshua is about to show John a vision of things that were about to happen, events that were going to happen in John's lifetime. Okay? So if that's the case, look at this. You saw this beast, but then he was not. He was taken off the earth. Nero, once the Father was finished using Nero and the beast system of Rome, the military, to surround Jerusalem, to besiege Jerusalem, to kill over 1.5 million Jews, and to wipe out the temple, and to wipe out Judaism, then the Father takes Nero off the earth. The demon of suicide entered. Where do unclean spirits come from? Everybody goes, they come from Satan. Go back and read Saul. Who sent the unclean spirits to Saul? The Father did. Satan can't do anything without permission, including commanding his demons to go out and kill someone. That can't happen unless the Father gives Satan permission to tell those demons to do that.
Read that section of that verse again.
It's the beast which you saw, which was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition, that would be hell. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of the life. Because Nero was the, if you want to call it, the king or the or the world, the ruler of the world. He was the world ruler. And everybody's going, oh my gosh, he just committed suicide. All right? Those who were not, names were not written in the book of life from before the foundation of the world. When they beheld the beast that was and is not, and yet is. Now, what yet is means the continuation of his military might and power until the job was done, wiping out Jerusalem, killing the Jews. Until it was done, Nero's son and then another military leader arose. That's these 7 horns. When you're talking about, everybody wants to put, what's the previous verses? The 7 heads and 10 horns in verse 7. Everybody wants to put that in the kings and the political readers of our time. Now, a lot of this will repeat itself in our lifetime. But John's seeing a vision of events that are happening then. So Nero committed suicide. Rome was burning while he was, it says Nero fiddles while Rome burns. So Nero, the demon of suicide, and that's what it is, an unclean spirit, entered Nero's mind and caused him to die. So that's what it's talking about here. Can it be applied in other ways? Absolutely, yes. Prophecies applied and fulfilled on many different levels, many different ways, in many historical timeline periods. And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains. Okay, this is good. On which the woman sits. Now, this is why everybody thinks it's Rome or the Roman Catholic Church, or they think it's just Rome during Nero's time.
Or Lynchburg.
Or Lynchburg. I know. Before Liberty was built, my dad knew Jerry Falwell Sr. pretty well, and we used to go out on the property there with Jerry or with some of Jerry's entourage, Jerry Falwell Sr., and look at there's 7 hills, which Jerry purchased, Thomas Road Baptist Church purchased, and that's where Liberty University started. I got to see it before there was one building on there, and then I got to see it as the buildings were progressively built. But we used to call it the 7 Hills of Rome, because there's 7 literal 7 hills right there, part of the property where Liberty University sits. That's not what this is talking about.
No.
So, yes, Rome back then was the beast system. Yes, Nero was called the Antichrist. Yes, the 3 years between 67 and 70 AD were called by everybody back then. They wrote it down. You can read their history books. The 3.5 years were called the Great Tribulation. That's the vision John's seeing here. Rome was the leader of the world. Nero was the leader of the world. Rome was the beast system. The military of Rome, no one could defeat it till Yeshua stepped in. That's where it says in that previous verse, he was, but he is not anymore. He's taken off the earth, Nero. The 7 mountains on which the woman sits. There were 7 kings, 5 are fallen, 1 is, the other is yet to come. Again, all history books, including Nero. There were literal 5 under him. There were literal 7 kings. 5 were fallen, either killed or Nero killed them because he was a narcissist and he was paranoid, Nero was, that his own leadership were rebelling against him and were planning a coup against him, so he had him killed. That's the spirit of Antichrist and a dictatorial leader of tyranny. And even today you'll see that happen. 5 are fallen, 1 is, the other's not yet come. And when he comes, he must continue a short space. That's probably I can't pronounce, Vespasian. After Nero committed suicide, after Titus died or was removed, then Vespasian comes on the scene. Again, will this be repeated with political leaders today? I think so. Should we stop there?
Yes.
Oh, we're out of time.
Yes.
Okay, if you go back and again research what happened when Nero and the armies of Rome surrounded Jerusalem between the years. Actually, they started in 63 to 70 AD. There's your 7 years if you want to come up with your 70th week of Daniel. And the 7 decades between Christ coming through Mary's womb and when Christ came back in the clouds of judgment, not all the way to the earth, not to finish the job of destroying the entire earth, but when he came back in judgment upon the Jews and Jerusalem, and he used Nero and the armies of Rome to do it. If you go back and you read the history of the leaders, you'll see these 7 kings, 7 military leaders. You'll see the ones that were taken away. 5 were gone, and another one came on the scene. You'll see it all. It fits perfectly with what's already happened back then. Again, it's just like the Father to repeat all of these prophecies that have already happened, they've already been fulfilled historically, to repeat it again in our time right now. So I'm not a full-fledged preterist. Don't try to pigeonhole us in this teaching. I've studied apocalyptic literature, prophecies in the Bible, for years, and they have sometimes just two fulfillments of the prophecy. Some happen right then, some happen 10 or 20 years later, and then that same prophecy was fulfilled again 100 years later, and sometimes 1,000 years later. We're seeing all this happen again in our lifetime. Hey guys, thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to continuing in chapter 17 of Revelation next time. Thank you.